Hey everyone, welcome to the Eat to Win show where sports nutrition meets peak performance. Get ready for expert insights, real stories, and tips to help you win with every meal. Let's dive in.
All right, and welcome to the Winner's Circle and the Eat to Win podcast. I'm Samuel Bullard, here to talk about all things sports nutrition and how we help athletes win. Whether you're an athlete or just passionate about nutrition, this is the place to be. Today, we're thrilled to have an amazing guest with us. Joining us is Coach Sam Shomo, former NCAA Volleyball Head Coach and current college scout with National Scouting Report. She's here to break down everything high school volleyball players and parents need to know about recruiting, what it's like to play at the next level, and why proper fueling is essential when it comes to intense volleyball games. Let's jump right in. Sam, thanks for being here.
Hey, I'm excited to talk about all things, not just volleyball, but recruiting for all sports too.
Awesome. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background, kind of how your journey to ending up as the head coach?
Sure. So I played volleyball in high school. I played club volleyball like many of you out there. And then I got recruited to play in college. I played Division III because I wanted to be a teacher. And those two paths worked really well together. So I went on to be a collegiate athlete. And then after that, I was hired as a collegiate coach and went on to coach collegiately for 12 years. I was a head coach at Western New England University and Anna Maria College in Massachusetts. And I love coaching. I love the game of volleyball. I love mentoring athletes. And then I also stepped into a role as a college professor, taught a variety of classes, some of them in sports management and sports leadership. And then about 2 years ago now, I pivoted because I wanted to help more athletes and mentor more athletes than just the ones on my college volleyball roster. So I became a scout for NSR, and now I help high school volleyball players get recruited and get to pursue their dreams in college.
Awesome. So during your time when you were a volleyball coach, kind of what's some of your favorite memories there that you're kind of going to carry with you as you go into the recruiting process?
There's no experience like it, right? Like there's nothing on this planet like being a college athlete. And I loved seeing just in general, like freshmen would step into their first year and honestly be like overwhelmed. It's a hard schedule. When you're in season, you have almost every waking hour of your day scheduled. And just seeing them sometimes be a little bit overwhelmed, no matter how well prepared they were in high school. But then to really grow to like flourish and love it and master the schedule and be able to grow academically and grow in their sport. And it's just so cool. Like I was just texting with one of the players that played for me and graduated in like 2000. How did she graduate? 12, right? And just like have those connections forever. So that's a huge part. But I mean, I also just love to compete, love to win. So it was cool to have that as your job every day on top of being able to like impact a whole group of people, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. You were an athlete too, right? You get it.
Yeah. I never got to quite the college level, but I did wrestle for 13 years. So definitely know the busy athlete lifestyle. Absolutely. So kind of jumping over to the recruiting side now that you're at National Scouting Report, NSR, what is kind of one of the most common misconceptions that you often address when you're talking to athletes that are looking to start navigating the recruiting process? Like something that you almost always have to cover because it's something that the athletes just don't quite get yet.
There's so many misconceptions about the recruiting process. Like this is not something you can just Google search. Like it is so nuanced and so specific to the athlete. But one main misconception I see over and over again, and not just in volleyball, but all sports, is that playing at an event, so a tournament, a showcase, camp, prospect camp, college camp, whatever it may be, playing at a tournament is going to get me recruited. And that's a huge misconception. Just being there, just competing at that event does not mean college coaches are going to see you and choose you and start recruiting you. No matter if it's a specific college camp or college showcase, just being at that one event that one day does not lead to recruiting. It's much bigger. I'm sure we'll get into it, a much bigger process than that. But especially in volleyball, because we have so many club tournaments and big club tournaments and college showcases. And really, a lot of people think just being there will get you recruited. And that's not it. That is not accurate.
That's so interesting to hear you say that, because there's definitely the similar mentality in the wrestling world for the friends that I know that did try to go through that process, and some of them did successfully get recruited. So that's interesting. So what is the better first step than thinking I just need to perform well at that one tournament or game?
So the recruiting process happens, right, over years. It doesn't happen at one event. It doesn't happen at one season. It happens over years. It's a lot better to just start. I always recommend to start is get evaluated by a professional. That's what my fellow scouts and I do. So you understand where your fit is, and that you can then focus your effort in recruiting to places that you fit, right? So you're not focusing it in the wrong direction. But to start the process there, and then it is just continued communication, right? It's not playing at this one event the one time. College coaches go to these events to see more of the players they already know about, right? When I was college coach and I was recruiting, and now all the coaches I know and I talk to every day and at every event, they're there with a list, typically it's on their phone, a list of players they know about that they've maybe talked to a little bit, or they know their grades, they've evaluated. They're there with a list of players to go and see. They're not just walking around browsing or like shopping around. So you've got to start your process way before you get to a tournament or a showcase or event. Got to take those steps of getting evaluated and starting to have conversations with the right coaches.
So it sounds like from what you're saying, it's almost like you need to figure out a way to communicate with the coaches so you end up on that list before the tournament.
Absolutely.
Okay. Interesting.
And don't get me wrong, right? You're going to probably hear people out there like, oh, well, I was playing at this tournament and this coach emailed me, called me, texted me, talked to my coach. That's amazing. Like, congratulations. That's really, really good. And the chances of that happening are so very slim, right? Like, that coach was probably there to watch someone on the other team, and just by sheer chance, you were playing really well and they saw you. So, I mean, it's not impossible. You're going to hear anecdotes out there where that happened. But for most of us, that's a very slim chance. So you've got to be proactive rather than just being at the tournament hoping someone finds you.
And then another aspect that I've often heard is from talking to college coaches oftentimes is what do you think the role of like team culture plays in just helping an athlete find the right college?
Do you mean like how you're
Well,
acting
so
when
from
you're
my experience, like when I had I've had so once again pulling from my wrestling experience, there were wrestlers I knew that the coaches were trying to find. There were really different kinds of cultures when it came to, I don't know, some were very much into we're gonna train harder than everyone, and it's just like if you go there, you are going to spend your next 4 years constantly training. And then I can't really think of other examples, but there are definitely different team cultures when it came from across wrestling. I was wondering if you kind of see that same area with volleyball, where there's like there's like, I don't know, Iowa State, for example, for wrestling is like they might be a little crazy. Everyone kind of just thinks they're a little crazy. They're good, but they're a little crazy. So if you're going there, you just got to be prepared for that.
Right. That's awesome. I don't see a ton of variation in volleyball culture,
Okay.
but there is a ton of variation in some coaching styles.
Hmm.
Right. Team culture will more or less be the same, but the athletes, high school athletes got to think about what kind of coaching they respond the best to. But also, I don't know, I encourage them to be flexible to work with other types of coaching too. Right. It'd be tough to throw away what seems like your dream college just because the coaching style wasn't perfect for you. Like, could you adapt there? Hopefully.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Hopefully. But volleyball is just a really positive culture. One of the reasons I love volleyball so much.
Absolutely.
It's all around pretty positive team culture. No matter what, though, as a college athlete, you are going to work hard no matter where you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I appreciate about sports like volleyball is it's something you can do for a long time. You cannot do that with wrestling.
Right. Yeah. You can't exactly leave high school or college and find like pickup wrestling matches.
No.
No.
No, I
Volleyball,
don't think
you
there's
can.
anyone that
Yeah.
really wants to.
No one should be doing that either. But volleyball, we get to play for fun forever. But there really is no experience like it's never going to be as challenging, but as fulfilling as it is when you're in college.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've got to be really competitive to succeed.
Okay. So then kind of jumping over to, we kind of talked about some of the misconceptions of like, you can't just be at that one tournament. You got to have a communication side of things. When it comes to how families approach the recruiting process, are there any other things that you would like to add that would help them kind of like, all right, my son or daughter wants to play. How do I start that process? I mean, obviously reaching out to someone like you at NSR would definitely be helpful, but what kind of other mindset changes do they need when they're going into that process?
That's a great question. First of all, I really want everyone, parents and athletes alike, to understand how truly hard it is to get recruited. I know the stats for volleyball, and you can look up the stats for the other sports, but 7% of club volleyball players go on to play in college. All the divisions combined, NCAA, NAIA, junior college, it's only 7% of those playing travel ball at that tournament, right? And myself and the other recruiting experts at NSR, we even think that's going to decrease with some of the changes that are coming in the NCAA, with the activity in the transfer portal. So you need to understand that, first of all, it is really hard. And I'm not sitting here trying to discourage anyone, but that's why you need to be really open-minded, right? You can't just pick out 2 colleges and be like, I'm going to play at one of these 2. So first of all, right, going into it for parents and athletes is to have an open mind and understand it's going to be a challenging journey. It's going to be worth it, but you've got to be fairly open-minded to all divisions and a lot of different schools. And then the other piece I really want them to know is you've got to be proactive. Like, this is not something that just happens to you. And it's not something you can just like wing it, right? You need to have a plan for, regular communication with coaches. And that's what I do a lot, help my athletes with that plan. And we make sure you're getting recruited and it's going to according to plan, or we change it if we need to change the plan. But, to make sure you're understanding it's years long and you're taking consistent steps and consistently following a plan.
Okay. Yeah. And then also kind of, but when it comes to divisions, how like, is that something you often have to address as like someone, you get an athlete, like, I am going to go D1. And you're like, well, maybe there's the chances of how you're recruiting. Like, how often is it that it's like sometimes, or the alternative is like, they think, oh, there's no way I could get recruited. And you're like, hey, look, maybe you aren't going to go D1, but maybe D2 or D3. Absolutely. How often do you have to have that conversation with parents?
Those conversations a lot of time. And I talk a lot about college coaches have what we call like a recruiting box. And each coach's box varies a little bit, but that's like qualities they are looking for in a player. And the reality is, if you don't have these qualities, that coach is not going to recruit you. Right? And some of the metrics, right? So there's just some different stats, height, approach, touch. That's where the box fits. So a lot of times, I'll fully evaluate an athlete. I look at their skills. I sit down and talk with them and their family and look at their character and their goals. And then, of course, their academics, and help them figure out what box they fit in, right? So we would all love to go to Nebraska volleyball, is the most popular in the country. Penn State just coming off a national championship. We would all dream for that, but realistically, not all of us can do that. Not all of us are going to fit in that box. So I have these conversations a lot, because if that's not your box and you're spending all of your time trying to talk to those coaches, you're missing out on all of the other boxes you fit into.
Absolutely.
So that conversation a lot of the time, and we'll also like lay out some different metrics, like, okay, well, like if that's really your goal, like here's the numbers those coaches are looking for, and here's what you can do, and always encouraging them to keep their options open and get evaluated, like I said, so you can figure out what box to be focused on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's like the number is like 10% of all collegiate athletes, at least volleyball players, are in Division I. Right. So there's a lot more in the other
Absolutely.
divisions too. There's a lot more opportunity.
Yeah. And so kind of in light of that conversation, what would you tell, like, let's say a freshman in high school who's like, I think it'd be really cool to play in college. What would you tell them as far as just like maybe inspire them, or like, what would you tell them if they're thinking even potentially of trying to pursue that of playing in college?
I work with freshman athletes currently. And so I have this conversation regularly. What I tell everyone is, step 1, your grades are going to matter tremendously. They matter right now, freshman year, and they're going to matter last semester of senior year. So you've got to be putting forth your best effort. Do you need to have straight A's and be 100% perfect? No. But you need to be achieving A's and B's and putting in the work to get there. It starts now, right? It's not starting junior year. As you know, your GPAs, they're going to look at your cumulative GPA.
Absolutely.
Right? So freshmen, prioritize your grades, get really good study habits because high school is going to get harder and college is going to get even harder.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I told you, I was a college professor. Guys, you get so much more homework in college than you ever had in high school. Right? Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to have these study habits down from freshman year on, really hone them so that when you get to college, you can still be successful. That starts freshman year. Also, freshman year, you need to get your foundations of strength, right? It's more than just practice. Everyone goes to practice, but you need to be doing some strength and conditioning outside of the gym. And then to fuel all that, right? Obviously, you need to have your nutrition down because you're building these foundations. You can't build them on poor nutrition. And, everything from practice to even studying. So freshmen, I say, make sure you have that foundation, and it's not too early. It's right on time to start thinking about some qualities you would like in a college, like region or size. Start thinking about it.
Mhm.
And then also start thinking about your SAT or ACT. It's a great time to be taking the PSAT or the pre-ACT. It's not too early to study.
Mhm.
So those things start happening really fast as high school goes on. So you can lay the foundation and everything your freshman year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that's shocking for a lot of parents here too, because freshmen are 14 years old. But this is it. This is happening now.
Yeah.
And they need these skills.
Yeah. And I'm sure the tendency is to wait until, I can take the SAT later.
You're going to do way better if you take it early and take it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially before the senioritis kicks in. There's no senioritis in college sports. All right. We're going to pause for a short break and so we can thank our sponsors. You're listening to the Eat to Win podcast with your host, Samuel Bullard. Liquid Fuel is a new sports and hydration product formulated by a sports dietitian to give athletes the edge to train and compete longer. It contains the low glycemic carbohydrate palinitose, designed to keep blood sugar levels more stable and to provide energy for 3 to 4 hours without the blood sugar crash seen in other leading sports drinks. Its unique 4-part electrolyte formula includes 50% of your daily magnesium to optimize muscle function. Liquid Fuel is naturally sweetened along with no artificial ingredients or colors. Currently being used by high school, collegiate, and professional teams, Liquid Fuel allows you to live your life with the confidence knowing that you're properly fueling your body. Visit drinkliquidfuel.com and use the code MSD10 to get 10% off your order. All right, welcome back to the Eat to Win podcast. We were talking with Coach Sam Shomo. Let's get back to it. So we were talking a lot about the recruiting process, but one of the things I wanted you to kind of touch on was the trends that you see in college recruiting right now and kind of what should parents be aware of and how do you see it changing?
So if you were to Google search, you're going to get a lot of conflicting information because there is a lot of conflicting information out there. There are some changes to NCAA rules and recruiting rules and roster sizes and NIL and scholarship. There's so many things out there, and there's just a lot of shifting going on. Even the NCAA, even the judges in these rulings, they're not quite sure yet.
Hmm.
So there's a lot going on, and it's literally my full-time job to keep track and help my NSR athletes and families navigate it as it changes. So I say make sure, you're not just consulting with Google, but you are consulting with somebody who lives this life.
Absolutely.
One of the big changes in the past, God, it's even been escalating this past year, is the transfer portal. I'm sure you've heard of the transfer portal before.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone has.
Mainly I've heard about it in the football drama, but yeah.
Yep. It's there in the football drama. It's huge in basketball. It just opened up, and there's over 3,000 collegiate athletes in the men's basketball transfer portal. It exists in volleyball. It exists in all sports. It just now makes it really easy for college athletes to transfer, right? But what parents of high school athletes need to consider is the effect on them. So from a coach's standpoint, right? Coach could recruit your athlete out of high school, or that same year can go look in the transfer portal and see who could join their team.
So has it essentially made getting recruited more competitive?
It has, right? Because now you're also competing with all these college athletes who, beyond college classes and their college sport, but like they've worked with college nutritionists, college strength and conditioning. So with all of that movement, there's still like less roster spots open.
Mm.
So it actually is making it more difficult. So you need a plan now more than ever. You need to make sure you're getting information from the right sources, probably now more than ever.
Yeah,
Keep an eye on all of the changing landscape.
absolutely. Yeah. So it's really the transfer portal. And are there any other changes that you've seen recently?
There are some pending decisions that are going to affect roster sizes and scholarships.
Okay, I thought I heard, was it specific with D1 roster sizes?
Yep, just a lot of caveats there specific with D1 roster sizes, and if they're opting, there's just so much going on for me to get into without
Yeah,
talking about
absolutely.
exclusively that for an hour.
Absolutely.
But it's also going to lead to, especially in women's volleyball and men's volleyball, smaller rosters.
Hmm.
It might essentially eliminate the concept of walk-ons and joining a team, right? It's going to be only recruited athletes on scholarship. So a lot of rosters will get smaller.
Hmm.
So these are some factors like cutting down that number of roster spots available for students right out of high school. And then there's also some pending changes about eligibility in junior college, but things change so rapidly in college sports and college sports legislation. But you know what? That might not even apply to a lot of us, right? Division One, so slim.
Yeah, you said it was only 10%.
Yep. But then what we're also seeing with less players going Division One is there's still that next caliber of players that could have, and now they're trickling down into Division Two.
So it might
And then
make
that next
D3 more competitive as well?
Yeah, exactly. That next caliber of players that could have gone Division Two are now being recruited and getting spots in Division Three. So there's this big trickle down effect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and discourage everyone from getting recruited. If you're a college athlete, like congratulations, that's a massive accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a college athlete, it takes a lot of work, but it's not impossible. You just need to buckle down and make sure you're doing the work.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, especially the idea of not going D1, and I've kind of already said this, but I think it bears reiterating. I really think there's a lot of people who they think because they can't go D1, they just can't go to college recruiting, right? And yeah, I definitely think that's a misconception.
Yeah. Or I hear a lot of people say like, well, I can't send my child Division Three because it's too expensive, without understanding. And athletes, this is why I talk about grades so much. Without understanding, Division Three oftentimes has large academic scholarships. If you have the grades, you are not going to pay that full price tuition that you see. There are Division Three colleges out there that give full academic scholarships based on GPA or even your SAT or ACT score.
Interesting. Okay. And then another question I kind of wanted to ask you, and backing up a little bit, right? Because it's definitely a long path to get to the point of being a high caliber high school athlete that's looking to get recruited in college. And you might or might not have a take on this, but I'm curious to your thoughts as someone who's a past coach. What do you think of early specialization into a sport? So like, for example, focusing specifically on volleyball as like a young athlete versus being a multi-sport athlete. Do you have an opinion on whether that's the right path in the age of increasingly competitive recruiting? Like if at an early age, they already are pretty confident, like they're probably going to do volleyball. Like at what point should they stop other sports and just focus in on that one sport?
Lots of varying opinions out there. And obviously this is
I'd imagine.
my precursor. Varying opinions out there.
Mhm.
I don't know which one's right. None of us know which one's correct. So I'll give you my personal opinion. If you were in middle school, if you were younger than 9th grade and you love volleyball, play volleyball and get better at volleyball and love it, but also play other sports if you love them too. I would hate to see athletes cut out something that they love to only do volleyball at such a young age, right? You have 4 years of high school to fine tune your volleyball. When I was a college coach, I love recruiting. My favorite type athlete in my box was somebody just sheerly athletic. Like we wanted to throw down and play dodgeball at practice. Everyone was pretty good at it. We wanted to shoot hoops. They were pretty good at it. We could mess around with kickball just because they had loved sports their whole life and had just a really well-rounded athletic background.
Absolutely.
And again, everyone's different, but that'd be my take on it. Play for fun, play all different sports, try it out. You may not love volleyball as much as another sport you start trying. And that might be your path, but if you're specializing early,
You
you may
wouldn't
never
know.
find that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of reiterate, you're saying if you're in middle school, there's no reason to start cutting out sports that you love.
I don't think so. I love that you get that well-rounded background. Like, I've seen volleyball players out there that can't throw a ball or catch a ball. Do we need that in volleyball? No, but it is like an essential foundation of being an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you want to play, you're in middle school and you're thinking you want to play volleyball in college, great, keep playing volleyball, but have fun with other things too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And would you think that kind of also would help with burnout? Like potentially not specializing too early, I think is one of the big critiques is it can lead to overuse injury and then also possibly burnout.
Yes, those are some huge pieces, especially in the volleyball world, because our travel season spans from December to July, right? You could be playing with your indoor travel team that long. And then come July, you hit a summer camp or two. And then August, your high school season starts. So it's a heavy, heavy calendar. So I always worry about, our 8-year-olds. They're not on as severe of a calendar. It leads for a lot of potential of burnout if you're not doing other pieces you love too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. As someone who did a sport a long time, not volleyball, but there's definitely some points where there were some athletes that were better than me that just they got burnt out. They couldn't do it. So they didn't even make it to high school because the middle school is too intense and they had just, over specialized essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. My brother played high school football and was very good at it, but it was so grueling where we grew up that he didn't want to pursue it in college. He had the opportunity to, but he decided not to. And he has no regrets, but you're right. Burnout is a real thing.
Yeah, that's funny. There's kind of two different kinds of athletes I've run into. There's athletes that they're very nostalgic about their sports years, but then there's another group that I could describe as the happily retired.
Yes, happily
I've run
retired.
into both of them.
Yep, it was a good time and happily retired.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Volleyball is a sport. A lot of us after college we try to retire, but we all come back. Like I have retired and I am back to playing. So we all try, but it just pulls you back in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a sign that you've enjoyed your career. It's just like this is so fun. How am I gonna stop?
I agree.
All right. So, talking briefly about nutrition, something I definitely wanted to touch on. What is kind of the general nutrition advice that you give to your athletes, and really how important do you think addressing nutrition is when it comes to talking about the recruiting process and really just supporting their athletic performance?
So start with current athletes. So specific to volleyball and probably handful of other sports too, we do a lot of traveling for these events. So before you even hit the 3-day tournament, you've either had a long car ride or plane rides. So your nutrition has to start well before that. So I see a lot of people like slip up in their hydration. It's hard to be drinking when you're traveling, but you're about to go into 3 8-hour days of competition. So I see some people get tripped up there. So, we got to make sure we're well hydrated even through that travel. And of course, well fed. I see a lot, and just being in women's volleyball for so many years is the athletes I see tend to not eat enough or not drink enough. Either side, it's just not enough. We play such a unique sport that's like an explosive sport, sprinting and jumping, but it occurs over hours. So it's a blend of like endurance and explosiveness. So I'm not an expert, but that's pretty high caloric demand.
Absolutely, yes.
So as a college coach, I saw that, right? We had to eat, just under eating or under hydrating. So, parents and high school athletes that are playing all these travel tournaments need to be really conscientious of that. And the other unique thing we navigate in volleyball, maybe not unique, other sports too, is you could play in the morning and have the morning wave, but you could also play in the afternoon wave. So you have the potential to be starting a volleyball match at 9:00 p.m.
Well, that would be hard.
It's hard, right? It's hard for all of us, coaches, officials, parents, players.
Everyone.
But it is the reality of our sport. So you have to have like fueled properly all day long to still have that energy at 9 p.m.
Hmm.
And if you think about it from a recruiting standpoint, if you've been in communication with a college coach and they're coming to see you play at that tournament, they can't really pinpoint. They don't tell you like what time they're going to be there. So they could come watch you play at 9 p.m.
Mhm.
And if you're like completely tapped out and you're not playing your best, then like that was kind of your one chance. And if nutrition was a reason for that, you could avoid it by, prioritizing your nutrition and hydration during the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't know that's how long the tournaments could go for. That's kind of crazy. So how
Yeah.
long is like your typical high school volleyball match?
So the travel volleyball, so the tournaments I'm talking about,
Mhm.
they'll play best of 3.
Okay.
So, if you win the first 2, it's over. You might have to go to a deciding set. And in your tournament day, you'll play 3 or 4 of those.
Hmm.
So 3 or 4 best of 3. So you could play, if all of them go 3 sets, you could play 12 sets of volleyball. And they're, 1 and 2 are to 25 points. Set 3 is to 15. So you're looking at an hour to an hour and a half times 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, and of course you have off time in between, right? You're not doing it, not playing straight through, but that's, like I said, caloric demand. Like that's a pretty big athletic feat to be navigating.
Absolutely.
And then you got to wake up and do it again on day 2.
How many days are they typically? 2 days?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Wow.
The big ones where the college coaches come to recruit, they're national qualifiers where you can win a bid to nationals. Those are 3 days long.
Hmm.
And then that third day will be oftentimes single elimination.
Okay.
But that's when you want to win, right? So you can
Absolutely.
win
Yeah,
the tournament. So day 3, you still have to be at peak performance.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And just kind of, so when you are looking at athletes, how often are you considering nutrition and like really just their basic nutrition knowledge or even their value of like nutrition as a tool to improve their performance when it comes to like helping that box that coaches are talking about? How often do you think nutrition is in that box?
As the college scout right now, I don't factor it in because a lot of these high school athletes, whether they're freshmen, even juniors, don't have much guidance and don't know what on earth they're doing. So I don't factor it in, but I factor it in when we start working together. Like you need help. You need a plan.
Mm-hmm.
This is hugely important. So then on the flip side, when I was a college coach, I loved when I would be talking to a recruit and they told me just that they have a nutrition plan or that they have a nutrition coach, because that's some great foundation because they're going to have that when they get to college.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to have to understand how to fuel their performance because in college, lifting, practice, many games, travel, right? It's a grueling schedule. So the
Mm-hmm.
college coaches love to hear that you've done some nutrition work and have been conscientious about it when you were in high school.
Absolutely.
Does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of, I've heard some scouts before say that they're trying to get some other NSR guys actually. They're trying to get high school athletes to basically be early college students. And so definitely one of that
100%.
aspects is like, we need to get your nutrition like you're already in college, because the number of times I've seen, especially wrestlers, they leave their high school and they like had pretty dominant performance, but don't have that much muscle. They have a little bit, and then they come back after a year of college training and they're absolutely jacked. And you're like, wow,
Yeah.
where was this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We talk about that a lot at NS. College coaches aren't recruiting a high school athlete with potential. They're recruiting a high school athlete that looks, plays, walks, talks like a college athlete right now. And yeah, part of that big piece is nutrition.
Absolutely. All right, so now we're going into the little last bit of our conversation here with some rapid fire questions. So, first one, coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. So much coffee. Too much coffee. It's probably my nutrition downfall.
Maybe me too.
Okay.
So, what do you think the most underrated volleyball skill?
Let's see. So I think how smart setters have to be and how much goes on in a setter's brain is the most underrated and overlooked by everyone besides the setter and maybe coach.
Mm.
So it's setter, for those of you that aren't volleyball people, that's kind of like your quarterback.
Okay.
You've got to keep track of everybody on your side, but as well as everyone on the other side of the net, plus a bunch of different strategy. And without really even talking about it, they kind of keep track. And a setter that's really good at that changes everything. So I think that's underrated and overlooked.
Absolutely, yeah. Best advice you've ever received about coaching?
There is no checklist, right? A coach doesn't look like this. Coach doesn't do this. It's just, being yourself and putting your own brand into it and just like being really authentic.
Absolutely. Okay. And
I did really think about that one beforehand. I know I said rapid fire, but that one I had to sit down and think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then one thing people don't know about you.
One thing they don't know about me. Trying to think of a good one.
That's a bit of a hard one for rapid fire.
I know. A lot of people don't know. For fun, I figure skate, which is
Awesome.
not your typical figure skate. I'm a volleyball player, right? So I'm tall and pretty muscular. I'm not like dainty. So I'm not flying around spinning, but it's just a fun hobby that has nothing to do with my typical sport or
Fair enough.
profession.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just something I go out and do even by myself. People are wonderful and I love to socialize, but I don't want to figure skate with you. I just want to go skate by myself.
Absolutely.
Little known fact.
There you go. There you go.
A fact with no agenda at all. And not even all that well. I just enjoy.
Yeah. Is it you're almost like you're processing if you need to go think about something? Absolutely. Okay. All right. And then if someone really enjoyed this conversation and they want to get in touch with you, how would our audience get in touch with you and follow your work?
I'm really active on Instagram. You can find me at Coach Sam Shomo. And that's where I even post some free tips. But if anyone's not really sure how to start this journey, or if you're looking to get evaluated, you can contact me there. And I'm going to need some film, but we can start getting you evaluated and I'll help you figure out where to start this process that can seem overwhelming. But, find me there, grab some tips. And if you need help, we can start the process.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right.
And not just volleyball players, all athletes.
Yeah, because there's definitely someone at NSR for every single sport.
Yeah, I have a lot of really incredible colleagues in each sport. So if you're hearing this, you can reach out to me and we'll get you evaluated.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for today's episode of the Winner's Circle and the Eat to Win podcast. A huge thank you to Coach Sam Shomo for joining us and sharing her wisdom on recruiting, collegiate volleyball, and performance. If you found today's insights valuable, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your team, friends, and family. And also do us a big favor and rate us and review us. Until next time, keep winning.
Thanks for joining us on the E2Win Show. Remember, every meal is a step toward victory. Until next time, stay strong and keep winning.